Good evening and welcome. My name is Rudy Page. Welcome to Vaccine Confidence Dialogues. Great to be back here again. This evening we've got three guests, Dr. Gloria, Angela and Dave, and we'll be in dialogue for the next hour or so, and we'll be looking at some of the key questions that members of the African and Caribbean communities have been asking of both our professionals and of the communities in general about vaccine safety and being able to provide as much information as we can, and also talking about the virus and how it's spread around our communities as well. So good evening all, hope you're all well.
Good evening.
Yes, thank you. Good evening.
Great. So today we're going to kick off with Dr. Gloria.
Yes.
So how are you? And tell us a bit about yourself.
Thank you for having me, Rudy. And I'm excited to be sharing more about vaccine because I'm well aware that there's a lot of hesitancy from the Black and Caribbean community. So it will be good to try and alleviate some of those fears by sharing the facts about the vaccine. Okay? I know you'd asked for me to give a bit of a background. So I'm a GP based in Ashford in Kent. I'm originally from Uganda in East Africa, and I've lived in the UK for about 12 years now. And I've been taking part in the COVID vaccination within my primary care network. So I feel that I might be able to share some insight on it with you today.
Great. So can you just give us a couple of the key facts about the vaccine in itself?
Right. So with the COVID vaccine, how it works is it will be injected in your body. It's like the flu vaccine. We would administer it in your arm. Now, when it gets into your body, it will cause the release of what we call the coronavirus spike protein, which your body will identify as a foreign substance and an invader within the body. How the body responds to the vaccine is it mounts an immune reaction, which would involve it getting what we would call soldiers or deploying the military that defends the body to fight this vaccine. And these are your antibodies. It also forms another cell called the T cells, which are the memory cells. And what this means is the antibodies would fight the virus if you were exposed to the COVID virus in the future, to reduce the amount of virus within your body. And that would cause you to have a less severe form of the infection. The T cells, which I mentioned are the memory cells, those remain in your body lifelong. And in the future, if you're to get exposed to the COVID-19 virus, they remember how to form the antibodies and how to fight the virus. So in a way, when you get this vaccine, it's giving you sort of a lifelong immunity. So it's protecting you from other future exposures to this virus. Now, in that, the vaccine, like all vaccines, does not mean that you are 100% immune from getting COVID-19. You can still catch the infection, but it would protect you from a severe form of the infection, which is what would cause people to end up being admitted in the intensive care unit or ending up dying. So it does give you protection, but it's not 100% immunity. So we need to get that fact right. It will obviously have some side effects to it, which most of them are flu-like symptoms. These commonly occur for the first 48 hours after you've had the vaccine. So you might get a bit of muscle aches and pains, headaches or fevers or chills. And normally, if you get any of the side effects, the advice would be to take a paracetamol and they should settle. However, if any of the symptoms are carrying on for longer than 4 days, the guideline is you must contact your GP. The reason being, like we're all aware, especially in the last 2 days, there's been a lot going on about the AstraZeneca vaccine and the blood clots, which have not found sufficient evidence to tie the two together. But because they're still reviewing the information, they've advised that if you get a headache or abdominal tummy pain for more than 4 days after you've had the vaccine, or any bruising extending beyond the site of injection that lasts for more than 4 days, you should let your GP know. Because out of the 20 million doses that we've administered of this AstraZeneca within the UK, there's been at least 78 recorded cases of the blood clots, which, like I said, it's all still under investigation.
Okay.
So the other things I would like to share about the vaccine is currently within the UK, we're giving 3 types. So previously it was only the Pfizer vaccine and the Oxford AstraZeneca. But as of yesterday, we started the Moderna vaccine. These all work in a similar manner. They will all give you at least about 76 to 90% protection once you've had the 2 doses of them. So I would like to encourage people, if you get offered a vaccine and it's your turn to go in, please do try and go in to receive this. It's for your protection and for the protection of those around us.
Thank you for that. So tell us why our communities and particularly our health and social care workforce should take the vaccine.
Right. So that there's social care and healthcare workers are exposed to vulnerable people in their day-to-day work. First of all, the vaccine would protect the healthcare worker and the social care worker and everyone else in the community. So when you've had the vaccine and you've got that immune system that would protect you from COVID-19, it protects you as an individual. But then it also protects you from spreading this, prevents you from spreading it further to the other people, which could include your vulnerable patients or the people that you're caring for, or even your family. So it is quite essential that you get this because you need to stay safe. We've lost a lot of medical healthcare staff in this pandemic, and it would be a shame because no one knows how severe anyone's infection could be. Initially, we thought it was killing only the elderly, but as we've come to realize, anyone is at risk of dying from this.
Thank you for that, because what we say is the workforce is the community and the community is the workforce. So there's no, COVID has uncovered that there is a direct connection, which historically we never used to think in that way. So thanks for that. So you have outlined it, but of course there's still this hesitancy around the vaccine being safe. I just wondered whether you wanted to reiterate any more points around the safety aspect, just to provide that reassurance that people are.
So
ask you?
with all vaccines, they have to go through clinical trials. They would be tested in different phases on the people that are selected to take part in these clinical trials are randomly selected, but they would cover across a wide range of the population. So different age groups, different ethnicities and backgrounds, and different health situations. So they have been tested, and the vaccines, they have been proved to be safe. They've been there. We do have regulatory bodies that would not authorize an unsafe vaccine to be released, because they have to assess the efficacy but also the safety of these vaccines. So we have the Medicines Healthcare Regulatory Agency, which has okayed all these 3 vaccines to be used within the UK, based on the clinical trials. I know it seems like it's only taken a shorter time than usual to come up with these vaccines, but there's been a lot of funding within these trials, and there's been previous information from other immunologists who are the scientists that study how these vaccines work. So although some people feel that it might have been rushed, we do have enough data to confirm that it is safe to be used. At the moment, because of the concern about these possible blood clots that could be linked to the AstraZeneca, we are now advising anyone under the age of 30 to have an alternative vaccine whilst investigations and this information is being reviewed by the scientists.
Right. Thank you for that. So, how is the virus spread among families, at work, and across local communities?
Okay. So what we know is when you have the COVID-19 virus in your body, you will cough it out, and the droplets can spread as far as 2 meters, is why they ask us to keep that 2-meter distance. And these droplets can land on any surface. They're not always necessarily inhaled. Sometimes they might drop on a desk and you come and sit down and touch the desk, or someone might rub their nostril, have mucus or have the droplets on their hand, touch a trolley in Tesco, you come and touch the trolley. So it is spread commonly through the droplets, but also on the surfaces. The virus can last on the surfaces for a period of time. So it is easy to catch it by touching the surface. And some recent studies have shown that it could well be airborne. So it does linger in the air and in the atmosphere for a while. So when you're in contact with these surfaces, if you touch your eyes or any mucous membrane on your body, the virus would get into your body. It can take up to 14 days for it to incubate, in which during that time you might not have any symptoms, but you are still spreading it around. So this is why we have been encouraged to all adhere to the government guidelines, which involve us hand washing. This is to make sure if you've touched any surface that might have the virus, you wash your hands. You can use the alcohol sanitizer to kill the virus. And you have to wear masks just in case there's droplets around that you won't be able to inhale if you're wearing the mask. Now, if you're not doing any or adhering to any of these guidelines or taking these precautions, you could transmit this virus to the people around you whilst you're still asymptomatic. So not everyone gets the symptoms of the cough, the fever, the chills, the headache. Some people haven't had any symptoms at all, but they will still carry this on by being in contact with people, close contact, or by so to avoid any of that happening, we must make sure that we're hand washing, we're sanitizing, we're social distancing, we're not mixing up with other households, and we are wearing the mask to prevent to prevent the transmission of the COVID-19 virus.
Okay, thanks for that. So what are the benefits versus the risks? And also, of course, and you've touched on there, really to highlight the consequences of not taking the vaccine in the first place.
Right. So the vaccine, like I said, will protect you from the severe form of COVID-19. If you do not take the vaccine, you are at risk of catching this virus. And if you have a large amount of the virus in your body, then you would have a severe form of infection. Now, I know some people don't want to take the vaccine because they feel that there's risk of blood clots. But looking at the data, out of 20 million, there's only been 79 blood clots, which again, we're still trying to investigate to see if it's actually linked to the vaccine. Looking at the data, that the incidence is very low, and your chances of getting a blood clot from COVID infection are much higher, because that's what it does. Cause blood clots in your lungs, in your brain, when you get the COVID-19 infection. So you are safer. I mean, the benefit of having the vaccine is it outweighs any risk of the blood clots, because if you do catch the infection itself, you are at a much higher risk, about 85% chance you could get blood clots if you are prone to getting the blood clot. I know the other thing that people were concerned about in our African community is there's always worries about things like pork product in vaccines. So we do use porcine gelatin, which comes from pork or chicken, to stabilize vaccines. This is just to make sure that they don't break down during transportation or whilst in storage. But the 3 vaccines that we're using for the COVID-19, the Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and Moderna, do not have any porcine gelatin. So there isn't any pork in them, which should hopefully offer some reassurance to Muslim or Jewish brothers and sisters of ours. So it would be safe. And I think the other concern that a few people had is if they could still have it during the Ramadan month of fasting for the Muslim community. But the spiritual leaders, who are the imams, have actually said it is okay, it doesn't contaminate your body. So I do hope that people will feel safe to have the vaccine. There's been other people who've suggested that the vaccine might cause the COVID-19 infection, because there's been a few cases where people have had the vaccine and then tested positive for COVID-19 following from that. So what we think is happening is these people came to get the vaccine whilst they were in that incubation window period that I mentioned, Rudy, where you don't have any symptoms, no fevers. Because when you come to get the vaccine, we will ask you, have you had a fever in the last 1 week, any headache, loss of smell, taste? If you've had any of these symptoms, then we do not offer you the vaccine at that point. We would have to wait 4 weeks after any infection before we can offer you the vaccine. But if someone comes in and they've not had any symptoms, we will offer the vaccine. But unfortunately, if they've been in that incubation period, then the symptoms might present a few days after. But this won't mean that they caught the infection from the vaccine. It would just mean that they came for it at a time when they were still asymptomatic, but they've now presented with the symptoms. The other thing I need to also mention is once you've had the vaccine, this immune response is not immediate. it takes about 3 to 4 weeks to form the antibodies after the first dose, and that can give you about a 50% protection. Then once you've had your second dose, it would take another 3 to 4 weeks to give you that 90% protection. So those of you who might have had your 2 doses, the advice is please carry on keeping yourself safe, wearing that face mask, hand washing, social distancing, because you could still catch the COVID virus. And you could still spread it to others. You're possibly not going to need hospitalization because you've got the vaccine. You will have a less severe form, but you could still pass it on someone who is vulnerable, who's not had any vaccine, and who might present in a more severe manner.
Okay, thanks for that. And just finally, what is long COVID?
So long COVID is something that we've recently come to learn about. This disease is new, so we're learning more and more
Yes.
about it as the days go by. So normally what we expect to see with the COVID infection is most people are better within about 4 to 6 weeks from when they've had the infection. Their symptoms will cease within a 4 to 6 week period. They'll feel back to normal and are all well. But we've had quite a few cases now where people are having the symptoms of the COVID-19 infection for more than 6 to 8 weeks after they had the infection. Commonly, we're seeing them with lingering symptoms of being fatigued or muscle weakness, to extreme cases of what you'd see in chronic fatigue, where people have previously walking independently, working, physically able, and now not being able to even get out of bed for more than half a day, or not being able to return to work. Then others have been presenting with continued shortness of breath, getting breathless even on minimal exertion. Others have had muscle aches and headaches. So the advice is, if you have had COVID-19 infection, and that's whether it's been confirmed on a test or not. So if you presented with the symptoms and you think you have had it, if these symptoms are carrying on for longer than 6 to 8 week period, please contact your GP. You would need to go in for an assessment because the GP needs to find out why they're lingering on. So in some cases, it could be you've got a secondary pneumonia, which is a chest infection. So the GP would have a listen to your lungs. They would do a chest x-ray to have a look, make sure there isn't any infection on there. They would also do a tracing of your heart, which is what we call an ECG, because with some people, we've noticed they've got heart failure, or they've got something called myocarditis, which is inflammation of the heart muscles post-COVID. And your GP will also assess you for any risk of blood clots, so clots in your legs or even clots on your lungs, and they will do blood which can point to whether you've had any risk of clots. And if those tests come back positive, then they would send you for a CT scan of your lungs to make sure you haven't had clots on your lungs. We are seeing a lot more of this, what we call pulmonary embolism, in the post-COVID stage, presenting even 8 weeks post-infection. So anyone who's had COVID-19, if you feel your symptoms have dragged on for longer than 6 weeks, you must see your GP, because you need to test and examine. And there's management for this. So with the heart failure, we can manage that. With the clots, we can manage that. With the infection, we would treat with the antibiotics. And with some people with long COVID, it's actually been more presented more with depression and anxiety following the COVID infection. So with that, your GP is able to refer you for counseling to try and deal with that, with the depression and the mood disturbance. So please do see a GP if your symptoms have lingered on for more than 6 to 8 weeks.
Thank you very much for that, Dr. Gloria. Very comprehensive. I'd now like to turn to Angela. How are you doing? Good, good. So Angela, you'd like to just tell us a bit about yourself?
Yes, of course. I currently manage adult health and social care, have done so for almost 11 years. Prior to that, I was a psychologist for over 25 years. So I have been responsible, certainly during the whole COVID pandemic period, been heavily involved in managing not only social care services, but also designated COVID units.
Okay. So what have been some of the key challenges for social care workers as a result of the pandemic?
Well, I suppose one of the key challenges, I mean, you probably are aware that the mortality rates are probably significantly high, one of the highest in cases of where social care workers have, the responsibility for caring for others. And because of the fact that social care workers work in a vast area, it's not just it's not health, it's not in the hospital. We're talking about in diverse areas, residential homes. We're talking about in people's homes directly, providing domiciliary care, in sheltered housing complexes, in extra care facilities. So it's far and wide. And there's also the unpaid carers as well. So with regards to the exposure, they have a high level of exposure because they are also they're not just providing the care as well. They're providing the support element. So they could be having to go and pick up prescriptions on behalf of people who are not able to do it. So they're also out in the community a lot. So they're all over the place, and I think that's where the risk is the fact of the mass exposure of the virus, or to the virus, let me say.
Yeah. Okay. So given that the social care staff do work in, as you've described, such diverse and high risk areas, so what steps have you been taking to encourage take up of the vaccine amongst that cohort?
What we have seen, we've seen a steady increase in the decisions to take the vaccine, but this has been very slow. There has been a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress around the taking of the vaccine for various reasons. There has been a lot of information about the vaccines, and contradicting information as well. So we've heard today so eloquently, how the virus is transmitted, what the effects of the vaccine. But there have been other versions of what the vaccine contains, what it does, the fact that it may cause infertility, the side effects. What we've found is that even though social care workers have been quite vulnerable themselves in high risk areas, they know that going into the homes, they are at risk of actually contracting the virus. I think because we're actually almost a year, well, we are now a year in to this period, those who have kind of survived it and kind of see as if we're coming out of the other end of it are now kind of saying, well, let's wait and see what happens before we take it. There are some obviously who make the decision, yes, we're going to take it, but you do still have a percentage of people who are saying, well, I'm not quite sure about this, and it's primarily because of misinformation or contradictory information, or various versions of themes of what we've heard today. So that has been difficult. Certainly within social care, what has happened is there has been, certainly over the period of the year, quite a good collaboration, let me say, of health and social care coming together to ensure that information is provided to frontline staff, because it's all they are at front line, but invariably, often enough, they're the last people to get the information. So there has been a definite concerted effort to make sure that they have had access to they're remote workers, they are out there, and they're out there normally doing their thing, and nobody hears or see. You don't really hear about social care workers as such, because they're out there doing. So, so we've had to make sure that there has been a definite, deliberate, concerted effort to make sure that they have had access to factual information. They have also had the forums so that they can ask the questions. We've sent out frequently asked questions. We've sent out, there are webinars that they can have access to. Clearly, because of the fact that you can imagine that over the year, the government guidelines changed several times regarding things like PPE, what masks to wear. So, we've had to make sure that we've, kept them up to date almost on a kind of daily basis as to what's happening. And currently we're still in a situation whereby, social care workers are required to have testing. So they are required to be tested. And if you're in a care home, you could be tested 3 times a week. So social care workers are now having to test on a very regular basis as well. So, there are challenges. There's challenges with communication, making sure that people get the right information. There's challenges because obviously, as you say, they are also the community. So when they take off their social care uniform, go home, they are the people. They are still the community. And they have seen firsthand, the effects of COVID-19. They have seen the high levels of death. They have seen the high levels of sickness. So not only have we had the challenges of dealing with the vicarious trauma that provides, but we've also had to reassure and inform. And you can imagine having to absorb all of that information whilst at the same time experiencing all of that trauma. And on top of that, also experiencing your own family members contracting. And I've definitely certainly experienced in my services. I've seen a probably 50% increase in sickness absence, because directly related to the virus, and that in itself causes other problems.
Right. Okay. Thanks for that. That's quite an overview, and thanks for that. Right, Dave. Good evening. How are you? Can't quite hear you. Good evening, Dave.
Yeah, good evening, Rudy. I can hear you.
Okay, great. Dave, tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, so my name's Dave Wilkes. I'm from Birmingham in the Midlands, and I'm an international poet. So I've been spending the past 9 years to try and inspire and uplift people of different cultures, different ages around the country. And this is what I've been doing over the past 9 years.
Great. So Dave, for our viewers and listeners, how did you get involved in vaccine confidence dialogues?
So it was pretty recent. A friend of mine who's in the music industry, he let me know that this organization was here that was giving trusted messages about the current situation. And he let me know that there was probably a few opportunities to use my work, my gift and my talents to inspire people from the UK and around the world. So I've spoke to a number of people on the platform, and yeah, there is a space for me to use my work, to use my poetry, as I said, for people of all ages, just to get a different take on speaking about something that's affecting us all.
Yeah, thanks for that. So how have you used your personal journey to inspire your poem?
Okay, well, unfortunately, I've experienced a few family and friends been affected by COVID-19. And, you know, just hearing of, you know, friends and just the general information that's out there on social media, people obviously losing their lives. You know, I just wanted to do something about it from my point of view, just to go into kind of my spirit to see how I could make a bit of a difference. So really it was people that I know, and just seeing on the social media, the news, how so many people have been affected by this coronavirus and COVID-19.
Okay, thanks
So
for that.
I mean,
sorry.
yeah, I'm just saying, never expected any of this really. The top end of 2020, and when it started revealing itself, as it were, I just wanted to really try and do something about it to make a bit of a difference, to bring in awareness.
Great. So we're not going to ask you to reveal any secrets ahead of the launch this weekend of the NHS vaccine solution, which is this Saturday, 6 till 7. They can go on Rudy Page Facebook and join there. But we understand that you've also made a video. So how was that experience?
During my career, I've had a few hallelujah moments, let's say.
Okay.
And to write a poem about the vaccine solution, when I heard that I was doing it, it really blew me off my chair, to be honest. But it was something that I really had to open my mind and have a look at what the key message, the overall message was, and many of the key words that I had to use in this unique poem to get the message out there. Then literally about 2 days later, I was told we're going to make a video, and it'll be like an advert, and that was completed I think it was last Wednesday. And to be involved in the filming of that advert, it was something, again, very special. It's not about me. I just want to make sure that my voice and to be seen can make a bit of a difference to the, as it were, the recipient of who sees and hears my work. So I'm very excited about Saturday, just seeing the type of effects that my words and the appearance of me in the video is going to make in people's lives.
Excellent. And what's important about this week's launch, and a lot of the hard work behind the scenes has been done by Robert Rudy, namesake of London Inc. He's done a great job behind the scenes with his team, is that our focus of dialogues are about community well-being. So, and this week, by having what we call creative presentation, so we're linking that link between community well-being and those with the creative abilities that are important So soon we'll have our gospel singers. So you're leading the way from a poetry perspective in terms of, the arts, the importance of the arts to communicate messages that are part of who we are. And also we will have Momo Watt, again, quite well-known singer. He'll be singing A Change Is Gonna Come, which again is a very powerful song in itself. So we're moving into that important area of the spirituality, and the spiritual well-being of the community is important. So over the next 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, we've got church services. This weekend, the House of Transformation in West London. The week after that, we've got sessions at church over in Enfield, and then the week after that, church over in East London. And so we're ensuring that we're going to have that holistic approach to this. So your poem this weekend is really a catalyst for us moving into that creative space, because we know that's important to link into the, as I said, the spiritual well-being of the community. And I also know that you will be reciting your poem at those church services, and I hope after this weekend, many more other organisations will be asking for you to go and recite that poem, because it is very powerful, and I think you've done very well indeed. So congratulations on that, Dave. Really. So as we come down in the last few minutes, so Dr. Gloria, Angela, are there any final thoughts that you might want to give to our communities? And when I talk about our communities, we're talking about the African and Caribbean communities in particular, because there is a lower uptake data-wise, but it is improving. So in terms of that, there is community progression as it relates to taking the vaccine, as Angela indicated earlier on. Also, the professionals within our community as well, the professional commitment is there, as demonstrated by yourselves, to get involved. So many more of our scientists and our people who work in health and social care are joining and being part of forums, and are really encouraging our communities to actually understand why they should, be informed, get the reassurance so that they can make a choice. So there is work being done. And in fact, in the next couple of weeks, we've asked Carl Murray, another member of our community, who's one of the best people when it comes to analysing research data and doing surveys. So we are actually be running a session as it relates to the data, as it relating to African and Caribbean communities and the uptakes. And just because what we want to understand is, we know data, that's the evidence, but what we wanted to understand more clearly what the progression has been. And then, so we want to monitor and track so that we can see for ourselves, because it's important that the community understands that there is progression being made. And that's important. So we need to be able to look at data, interpret it, and share that data. So this is, again, one of the things as it relates to COVID, it's brought many of our communities closer together, because fragmentation doesn't work and collaboration is great. So this platform certainly does demonstrate that. So I'll just, a last word from you, all of you, and then we'll close the show. So Dr. Gloria, I'll start with you, your last word.
Well, thank you again, Rudy, for giving me this opportunity to speak to my fellow African and Caribbean people. Just this pandemic has not only destroyed lives, but also it's affected the economy, it's affected our mental well-being, it's affected life as we know it. And the only way out is for us to have this vaccine, to to get to a point where we'll have herd immunity, where most of us are safe from severe forms of this disease, in order to protect our lives, our children, to protect our economy, to protect our mental health and our well-being. So I know there's lots of stories going around, lots of worrying literature out there, but it tends to be mostly on social media, WhatsApp groups, YouTube videos. But I would like to encourage people to take the time to analyze where this information is coming from. What is the source of this information? Is it a medical document or a research paper, or is it just someone who's decided to put this out there and cause fear and cause worry? But I think if you have any concerns as an individual, if you're not sure that you should be having the vaccine, if you don't feel safe, or if you have any worry about it, you should approach the GP. You can phone in, and now in the era of COVID, we're also doing e-consultation. So you'll do it online. You can always send in an online, you can write it down and just say, I'm not sure I should have this because of ABC. Maybe I've got this allergies, I've got this infection. You will receive a response, which is an informed response backed up by science and research. But I would really want to encourage people to go ahead and have the vaccine, because the benefits will outweigh any risks that people are talking about, or any risks that have been mentioned in the last few weeks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Angela?
For inviting me here this evening. I would just like to say that what COVID-19 has done is it has raised awareness of a whole host of health inequalities across the spectrum, and platforms like this are good because it does encourage honest conversations, and I think we need to continue these conversations in order to give reassurance. But I also want to, my hope is that what will also happen is that we will look at ourselves and what we need to do to kind of prevent what we call the underlying issues that we have been labeled with, and that we will do things to address that as well, and come up with preventative measures for the next generation. I feel that this is not a one-hit wonder. This is a catalyst, and I want this to be a catalyst for change. But I also want, yes, people do need to make the right decisions and choices for themselves. But life and health and life for the Black community has to be the key. And if that's the way that it's going to prolong life, then that's what needs to be done. But we need to continue to, as I say, have these open, honest, and frank conversations.
Yeah, thank you for that. And Dave?
Firstly, I'd just like to thank you, Rudy, for inviting me today onto the panel. And there are so many trusted messengers out there, and I just love this particular platform, because I've been watching this platform and there's been so many people of knowledge, and it's just a comfort just to listen to the technical reports and the data results. I think it's amazing what we've actually got out there as, I say, trusted messengers. If I can help in any way with the content of what's the real messages are, and just to break it down in a different way for people to understand, I'm here to help. I've took the vaccine, and I'm feeling well. And I'm feeling blessed.
Yes, I took my jab as well. And just before we go, very quickly, we're working with community pharmacy. And community pharmacies are really important because they're in every neighborhood. They're trusted, they have the trust and confidence of the community. They're dependable. It's the local access as well, and they empower patients. So you can just go and see your local pharmacies, and they will inform, reassure, so that people can really make the choice. So the 23rd of April, we'll be focusing on Croydon. And then on the 30th of April, we'll be focusing on Merton Sutton on Wandsworth. So the aim is to have a week-long activities around vaccine confidence linked into all the pharmacies across London. But the two pillars of this initiative will be Croydon on the 23rd of April and Merton Sutton and Wandsworth on the 30th of April. So hopefully you will all look out for those activities. Again, there's going to be entertainment. We'll have Dave the international poet, and lots of other surprises. I'm going to put Angela on the spot now and make sure that we get some gospel music through Angela and a network. And no, it's great. So thank you very much for a very entertaining and informative show, and shows the level of expertise and experience and empathy that we have for ourselves in our community. So thank you all, and good night, and stay safe.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.